You know, life can be so funny sometimes because remember that Barcelona wanted Arda Güler at one point in this summer transfer window. We were trying to negotiate and it did seem like Arda Güler was going to be a Barcelona player. But because Arda Güler went to Real Madrid because he saw that the bigger bag was at Real Madrid, that was one of the reasons on why we saw Fermin Lopez get 25 total minutes against Real Madrid. I strongly believe that if Barcelona did sign Arda Güler and we did not have Xavi breaking his back, we would have never seen and even talk about Fermin Lopez. So it's just crazy. Like, we thought that we missed out on a big gem, but only for us to find out that Arda Güler is now out for 2 months and he might even be injury prone. We have really dodged a bullet. And so to me, Barcelona are currently looking like the real winners. Fermin Lopez is on the rise. Real Madrid did spend a total of like 230 million euros on Camavinga, the Tchouaméni, and Bellingham, and only for Fermin Lopez to overpower and over-impress and being a better performer than these other midfielders. Now, because there is currently no answer on when Xavi could be returning, I mean, he could return in the next 2 or 3 hours, but because we haven't really heard anything, I feel like Fermin will get another 20 to 25 minutes against AC Milan, which will be a game that Barcelona will be playing in about 24 hours. And so I'm sorry that I'm making this video so late. I did discuss and I did say through the post-match review that I was going to talk about Fermin Lopez and I was going to basically analyze the player, but I never got to it, mainly because we saw this chaos between Dembele, PSG, and FC Barcelona. This story really came out of nowhere, but because some things are dying down, now this is going to be the time for us to talk about Fermin Lopez and who he is. And so if you guys do not know who Fermin Lopez is, he is a 20-year-old central midfielder that does obviously represent Barcelona. He is also coming from Real Betis. He did move to Barcelona back on July 1st, 2016. It's a very similar move to how Xavi came to Barcelona. Xavi also came from Real Betis. And so since then, since 2016, Fermin Lopez has been coming through the Barcelona Academy. And recently, back on August 19th, 2022, he went from Barcelona Athletic to Linares and went on a whole loan until the summer of 2023. So like a whole year. And so because Fermin Lopez impressed so much through that loan spell, and he has also impressed during the preseason training before they took off to the US, that is the reason on why Xavi Hernandez did call up Fermin Lopez to come to the US tour and to give him a chance to see what he could do. And man, did he make that up. I mean, if you really think about it, this guy was coming in with a lot of momentum. Since the start of 2023, he scored 12 goals within a span of 24 matches, and as a midfielder, this guy is not an attacker. So it has been said that he definitely earned his place by impressing Xavi Hernandez, and he could eventually become, right? We could be witnessing history, but he might eventually become the interior that Xavi Hernandez wanted so badly through this summer. And I do want to say another thing, right? I do think that Fermin Lopez is the perfect example to show to the world on why there can be loans that do happen at Barcelona that could work in the end, because most of the time, every time Barcelona send their loanees out there to other clubs, they never end up returning. Like, for example, Collado is being loaned out and coming back to Barcelona and now being loaned out again, and now he's at Saudi Arabia or something like that. It's a complete mess. There is literally like no future for Collado at Barcelona. Look at what happened with Monchu. Look at what happened with Alenia. Look at what happened with Oriol Busquets. Many of these players coming from La Masia that go on loan never end up returning or end up convincing at the very least. And so when the world saw that Fermin Lopez was going to go on loan with Linares, many thought that he was never going to come back, that he was just going to go there and maybe impress a little bit and maybe eventually get a full transfer to like some team in Belgium or some team in France or something like that. But again, Fermin Lopez is proving to be a great example on why loans can be good for some academy players. You just really have to want it. And so he is definitely leading by example, and I hope that players like Pablo Torre and Chadi Riyad do look at this case and say, hey, look, I'm currently on loan. Barcelona sent me here for a reason, and I do think that there is a chance that I could come back and impress and become a well-recognized player just like Fermin Lopez. So this could be the start of something new for FC Barcelona in terms of their loanees, and so it's very exciting. And so let's talk about what type of player he is. This is a player that knows how to win the ball when the ball is in the air. He really knows how to calm the ball down, control the ball, and then dribble past a couple of players. We saw him do this against Real Madrid. Here's going to be a perfect example. That type of skill set is exactly how Barcelona ended up scoring the third goal and led towards Fermin Lopez making the assist for Ferran Torres. And I just love this sequence here because every time you see Fermin Lopez receive the ball, calms the ball, he dribbles and progresses the ball forward, you can really see that he's asking, okay, what do I do next with the ball? How can I find a solution to make a final pass and create a goal scoring action? And I know that tendencies like this is very much appreciated by Xavi Hernandez because we have been missing midfielders midfielders that can be very creative and make that final pass. This is something that we have missed at Barcelona last season. Like, yes, we have world-class players like Pedri, Xavi, Frankie, and much more, but they were never able to constantly over-deliver on making those final passes into the box in order for players like Lewandowski or Ferran Torres or Ansu Fati to score a lot of goals. Most of our goal-creating actions and assists came from the wings, like Alejandro Balde, Dembele, Rafinha. They were the ones making the final pass in order for us to score the goals inside the box. But now, Fermin Lopez can be the answer to that on creating final passes through the middle. Now look, there are some weaknesses. Like, I'm not saying that Fermin Lopez is like the best midfielder in the world and that he's going to be better than Kevin De Bruyne, better than Zinedine Zidane. I'm not trying to overhype this player at all. And this guy does have some weaknesses. Like, for example, physically, he's not the best. He will get outbodied by someone like Modric or someone like Rodri or Kimmich. I remember that there was a report that was talking about how fragile Fermin Lopez was, and this is what it said. Despite completing preseason with the club's second team in the first year of men's football, Fermin was one of the weakest players in the squad. His physique had not fully developed, and the club told him he was not going to have the right number of minutes to boost his development. He spent the season on loan to Hernandez in the third tier of Spanish football, where he became one of the best players in the league. And so you can see that he did start off as a very, I would say, weak player. Many looked down on him and said that you're not ready yet. You're just physically not there. You look like you can get outbodied by most players, but only for him to prove to the sporting staff of Barcelona and the sporting staff of Hernandez that this player can become better and that he can work on things like this to get much more physical. This is something that players can control, and that's the good thing about his development, is that if the physicality thing is going to be a problem, that's fixable. You and me can also fix that, right? If you're watching this on the couch, you can get stronger, you can get faster, you can also get bigger. It's very much possible. Look at Pedri, for example. When Pedri first came into Barcelona, he was very fragile, he was very weak, he was very skinny, and then eventually, like 1 to 2 years later, now he's much more of a monster. He brings much more of a physical presence, and you can see how badly Pedri has been working during the training sessions and how much weight he does lift now. He's much thicker, and I know that Fermin, if he wants it, he will follow the exact same agenda. And so look, I want to say this again. I'm not trying to overhype the player. I think that he has great potential, he has great talent, and the only way this player can reach his best potential and become a world-class player at Barcelona is if he is 100% focused all the time, he works hard, he eats what he needs to eat, he works at the gym, he gets stronger, and he works on his ability to understand the game. If he can do all of those things, then yes, you will be having a great chance on becoming a world-class player. And I think that he has the capability to do that. He's a true Barcelona player. He loves this club. The way that he celebrated on the field when Ferran Torres scored the goal is something that showed, it was something that showed us that this guy really loves the badge and he's willing to put everything in his performance to make sure that Barcelona meet the expectations and bring the results. And so what we need to do on our part is nurture the player, right? We need to have patience with the player. Also, he will make mistakes. I think that Barcelona also overall do have to be very patient with the player, make sure that he gets a good amount of minutes, but not be like, oh yeah, this guy needs to be like Zidane by the 4th or 5th game. Just look at how Xavi and Iniesta emerged onto the scenes. We had patience with Xavi and Iniesta before. Like, I remember Xavi and Iniesta had a very good game against Mallorca back in the early years. Like, I believe it was in the first year. That was like the only good game they had in the first 3 years together in first team football. And when they put out that performance against Mallorca and then under-delivered in the next 35 to 45 matches, many of the fans were saying that Xavi and Iniesta only had like a one-hit wonder, they're not good enough, they're fragile, they're like toys. That's literally what they call them. They call them toys because they were just too skinny, too weak. Many thought that they were not going to improve from there. And I understood the whole agenda that many of the Barcelona fans had at that time, because throughout the first 3 years together with Xavi and Iniesta on the team, they only won 2 trophies. But once the right coach came in, which was in 2008, and you guys know exactly where I'm gonna go with this, when Pep Guardiola came in, he believed in these two players. Pep believed that Barcelona needed to implement possession and free-flowing football, and he saw that Xavi and Iniesta were the players to rely on, and they were able to deliver in the end. And we saw how Xavi and Iniesta created history for Barcelona in the next 8 to 9 years after 2008. It was a ride for every Barcelona fan, and we won multiple trophies. And when Xavi and Iniesta were being much more used back in 2007 and 2008 when Pep Guardiola was coming in, they were not 20 years old. They were not 21 or 22 years old. They were 23, 24 years old. The player that we're talking about today, Fermin Lopez, he's 20 years old. So let's have patience. I understand that many of you guys might say that Fermin Lopez is too old because he's older than Alejandro Balde and he's older than Pedri and Xavi and other midfielders and also Lamine Yamal. I just think that 20 years old is still very, very young. Again, we have to compare the case of Fermin Lopez with Xavi and Iniesta. And in the end, we must shift our perspective on how we view age in this game. And so Xavi and Iniesta were able to get the best from themselves because they understood each other. Even Xavi Hernandez said this, that he said like they barely talked to each other on the field because they knew exactly what to do and how to complement each other on the pitch. They never said like, hey, you're running too far away, or hey, you're running too close, or hey, step aside, I'm gonna run on this side. They never had conversations like that. They knew exactly what to do in every sequence of a play. And I think that's also going to be very important for the development of Fermin Lopez. Is who do you pair Fermin Lopez with when he is on the field? Do you pair him with Xavi? Do you pair him with Pedri? I think that this is also going to help us on how we could see our 11 or our team when Fermin Lopez is on the pitch and he is playing as our central midfielder. Like who could we see next to him? And I think that it is going to be Xavi. I don't see Pedri and Fermin Lopez playing together. I do see Xavi and Fermin playing as interiors with Gundogan and Frankie de Jong as our double pivot, or it could be Oriol Romeo with Frankie de Jong in our double pivot positions. And I say that because Xavi is someone who can take the ball away from the opposition and lend it towards Fermin Lopez, and he's the one that will be able to produce the attacks centrally. And you better bet that he is going to be much more of a attacking threat if you were to compare him to Pedri or Xavi, because if anything, like Fermin Lopez reminds me of Dani Olmo because he is just as fast as a winger. And so why do I think that he will succeed at Barcelona? Well, it's because Barcelona have been missing a central midfielder, like we talked about before, that knows how to shoot. He knows how to shoot. Look at these examples, like that goal that we saw against Real Madrid. He has been doing this for the past 7 to 8 months. He knows how to shoot with his right foot, and he's very calculated. And Xavi is looking for central midfielders that know how to score. Like look at what Xavi did say a year ago. He did challenge Pedri to score 10 goals because he wants his central midfielders to score goals. Pedri unfortunately could not meet those expectations and score a total of 10 goals, but if Fermin Lopez gets dared and challenged to do that, I think that he could do it. And so that is going to be my analysis on the player. I think that he is a solution to what Xavi wants in the central midfield position. It's just that, remember, we have to see if he really wants it. He's going to have to be very dedicated to his work and be very focused if he wants to continue to deliver in every game, because I do expect him to play 25 minutes against AC Milan, and I do want this player to score more goals and provide much more assists. And if he ends up having a successful preseason, then we might potentially have another golden boy for this year alongside with Lamine Yamal. So that is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.